This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
From a traditional booking mentality, chat me up about the big gold belt. When Flair left, he took the belt with him. And now these days, it probably isn't as big of a deal, maybe. But back then, was this considered to be doom and gloom and the old Bill Watts mentality?
No. You guys that love belts have this affinity for titles. And there's a lot of guys that like you that collect, real cool artifacts and memorabilia, including belts. I've never been one of those guys. If I had asked for a belt all through the years that I was in the business, how many belts you think I'd have in this house?
All
Tons
of them.
Yeah, all of them. But it's just, it never, and I'm not knocking those that like yourself that like them. It's just not my thing. So I never perceived that as a huge issue. It was made into a huge issue by the insiders and everybody, but it never was a big issue to me. I respected the title, but again, you got to understand it's a prop. You didn't go win it.
Well, I mean, I hear that in theory, but the Walt Disney of wrestling, you screwed one of the biggest stars he ever had because he didn't want his belt showing up on Nitro. So it's a little hard for me to swallow that you didn't think that this was a significant story and it only mattered to collectors like
well,
me.
You swallow it or not. I don't give a shit if you swallow it or you don't swallow it. But the bottom line is the belt was not a big deal to me. And that's going to be contrary to what you think because you're a belt guy. And that's cool. I wasn't. It was a prop. Have another one made next week.
So in your opinion, just a sidebar, the WWF title showing up on Nitro was not a factor to Vince McMahon.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Why? It's just a prop. Why not just make another one?
I don't know. You have to ask Vince. I don't know, Conrad. I think much was made of it than should have been. It was a symbol, and the symbol that represented WCW was being exploited on the enemy's television. That's about it. It could have been another symbol, could have been something else, but it was the belt. And I just didn't. Again, when you're not sitting on the outside looking in and analyzing all this stuff, then it becomes a little more clear that you got tons of work to do, and we did. And so I just never got really into it. I had to prioritize my time to do my work. And my work wasn't the belt search or the belt topic or whatever. That was just to piss off people, and it worked, obviously.
Well, you've been nothing if not consistent. The Observer quoted you or was talking about you back then. Jim Ross has been adamant on his talk show about putting the Flair situation behind them, talking about the present and the future, but it's still the leading topic of conversation on his show and at many arenas. I mean, obviously Flair jumping ship is huge news.
That's huge now.
To your point, Flair is different than the belt, and you can hear Jim in context on studio sessions over at adfreeshows.com. With a little help from our friend, Mr. Dennis Brent, we've been able to locate a lot of those old radio shows, and they're available for you now on adfreeshows.com. I'm curious though, you were really one of Jim Herd's only allies at a time where it felt like he didn't have a lot of fanfare. Would he ever come to you when this thing got real sideways with Flair and say, boy, Jimmy, I really fucked this up?
No, well, he'd confided in me sometimes, but I knew it wasn't going very far.
Right.
The reason I was a confidant or whatever the hell you said, because I'm the only one member of the booking committee, Conrad, that still lived in Atlanta.
Right.
I was handy. I was convenient. I was there. And so when everybody else had to rush there, get on their planes to go home at 3:00 in the afternoon, after putting in a hard 4 hours of work or whatever, and plus including lunch, then he'd have more questions. He'd have more concerns. He was looking for knowledge and information. And so other than Barnett, Jimsy, there was nobody there that could consult him in that regard onto that level. So I was ally to Jim Herd by default, by geography. And I didn't hate the guy. I find it really ridiculous to hate somebody you work with and have to work with them every day. So, I didn't, but the belt was a big topic, there was, because of the symbolism of it, but it paled in comparison to Flair leaving.
Of course.
Flair leaving was the money in this topic.
Let's talk briefly about Nikita Koloff. His contract is going to be expiring at the end of September, and there's no agreement for him to continue. And I believe his plan was, I'll just focus on my gym. He had recently opened a gym in North Carolina, but he is going to come back in 92, but it's February, so not too long. Was Nikita just frustrated with creative? Was it, I mean, it always comes down to the 2 C's, right? Were you in contact with him in this era about why he was going to move on?
I think he's burned out, and it wasn't the fun and games it was at one time. It wasn't the amount of private aircraft. It wasn't the great big houses. It wasn't the fact that everybody's motivated. The more you sell, the more you make. That's a great concept. It works in many walks of life. And he could see that the foundation of the business model was eroding and disappearing. So it wasn't as much fun, and it was inevitable that the money was going to become an issue. You can't have a business that's on the decline and expect raises and things. And the house shows, we had house shows, as you know, but they didn't matter. They were good. They didn't make you draw 1,800 people somewhere. There ain't enough money there to go around to pay the rent.
Yeah. Much
less get everybody extra money in their pocket for making the house show. So I think that he was just burned out, and I always communicated well with Nikita, and I had a lot of respect for him. But to say that I wasn't in a talent relations position at that time, I was just a member of a committee that was dysfunctional as hell, and it was what that was. So I didn't talk to him a lot, but I know that he might have been a little spoiled. Think about when he came in the business.
Oh, yeah.
And then the position he was put in. Then think about the untimely accident of Magnum TA. And then him taking Magnum's place in the babyface roll call. He was built, he was made. And those made days are over. So I think probably he got a little, disillusioned and said enough's enough.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.